Punk Rock Elite, a podcast about NoFX. Well, here we are, Eddie French and Red Redmond, back for our normal Monday. We're back to just regular Monday slots now. And anything happened in the last week, Red? Anything?
You know, nothing that I can recall of any significance.
No, it's been pretty quiet on the old Punk Rock Elite front. Oh wait, no, there was that one time we met up in the real world. That doesn't happen as often as we'd like.
Yes, no, that did happen, and I do believe that we saw a large selections of bands that we enjoy, including. I don't know if anybody listening to this podcast has heard of NoFX.
Oh yeah, do you know what? I think they're going to go places. We did actually spot them. Yeah, they were. They were on. Oh shit! Yeah, they were on in Leeds. Their last ever gig in Leeds. We saw that. We watched that happen.
We did watch that happen.
We watched that. That's the soft launch of the topic of today's podcast. Normally we ask what you've been up to this week, but it doesn't matter what else we've been up to this week. It's
everything pales in comparison.
Everything else is insignificant. So yeah, we saw the last gig that NoFX will do in Leeds. They had one more in the UK. They had Hatfield, which is that happening the day that we're recording this?
I believe that is happening today, yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, I imagine probably won't be as good as the Leeds one. Soz. I don't know, because, I mean, the thing is, right, I've been going to the Leeds Festival and various places for ages, right? Mm-hmm. And they always say, every band always says that Leeds is the better one.
Yes, I've heard that.
They say it, right? And they've got no reason to lie. So
no, absolutely. You know, it's like when we do a gig and we go out and go, "Oh, you're a brilliant audience."
Oh,
we always definitely mean it.
Oh, do you know what? It's weird. Every audience I play to is incrementally better than the previous one. That's why comedians.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? That's why comedians are always cooler and more tuned into reality the longer they go and the more successful they become. Same with bands. Same with anyone who's paid a huge amount of money to do something that, if they were any good, they'd be willing to do for free. So I think that's going to do for the intro for the moment. I think we're just going to leap right in.
Yeah,
to the episode.
That's for the best.
So jump on this sting and we'll be there. So, NoFX's last ever show in Leeds, penultimate show in the UK. Red, did you enjoy it?
I had a lovely, lovely day.
So did I. Well, thanks so much for listening. We've been Punk Rock Elite. No, that would be cheap. Yeah, it was quite the day, wasn't it? Temple Newsome in Leeds, the site of many, many wonderful things. Wonderful music events have happened, from the V Festival through to the Leeds Festival, or the Carling Festival, or the Turburg Festival, whatever it is these days. And I've heard someone refer to it as Slammy D, the Slam Dunk Festival.
Slammy D.
Yeah, I know.
That's brilliant.
It's up there with Platty Jubes, isn't it? For the
Platinum Jubilee.
Yeah, the inanity of abbreviating. Slam dunk is not hard to say. Anyway,
I think I also heard the Statty Funes for the state funeral.
Nice. You know who it was. Who came up with Platty Jubes?
No way. Who?
It was Kyle. And I've forgotten his surname. He plays Dean in Statlet's Flats, and he plays the husband in the UK version of Ghosts. That actor. He said, proper psyched for Liz's Platty Jubes on Twitter or something. And then yeah. And apparently if you search, his is the first example of it. So yeah, big shout out to him. But Statty Funes does sound like the front person of a band that we could have seen at some point.
But he's in Co-Defendants, right?
Yeah. Statty Funes is the bass player in Co-Defendants. And there's no way of proving that they're not. Code effect. We're jumping the gun a bit. Yeah. So,
Sure.
yeah, you got the. We were there with Sully and Sully O'Sullivan, friend of the podcast, previous guest. Go and listen to that episode if you've not already. And his mate Jez. I didn't catch his surname, but nice to meet you, Jez.
Jez Brown.
Oh, Jez Brown. There we go. With Jez Brown. And I think Jez was getting a train the following day down to Hatfield to.
Well, I believe Jez did the triple. I think Jez did NoFX at Leeds, then Slam Dunk at Hatfield, and is staying over for NoFX at Hatfield.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I believe. And
wow.
I heard a few people on the day say they were doing exactly the same. There was quite a few people that were going to both.
Oh yeah, no. That was there were people definitely with accents that would suggest they live much closer to Hatfield than Leeds, but were doing they're doing them both. I'm sure there were some people who couldn't make it to the Hatfield one, so had to come to it was a broad church of people, not in age. But actually, no, that's not true. There were some people who were defo well old, and people. I mean, I was going to say there were youngsters there. They were brought by their NoFX fan parents, which I did think was adorable. I was impressed.
One thing I will say though, for obviously there was an older crowd, but very much our age of crowd.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is even though people were, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, people were, having a lot of fun. Like when I compare it to, I saw Jimmy Eat World when they played, the Lead Mill, the venue that I worked for a couple years ago. And the crowd was deathly still. Everybody was having a good time, but there was there wasn't even a whiff of a pit or anything remotely.
Oh well, I mean, there was more than a whiff of a pit for several of the bands.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember I saw the Hives in 2001 or very early 2002, and the Hives, in their mind, they are a punk rock band.
Yeah.
But to the untrained ear, they sound to the trained ear, they're sort of garage 60s rock. Punk.
Yeah, and I suppose some people may accidentally think they're indie.
Yeah, they're not like skate punk. They're not like, they don't have the fat sound, etc. And that's quite common in the Swedish scene. And so when they were playing in Manchester, I think the Academy 2, or the smaller one, or the medium one, they brought the Sahara Hot Nights and my favourite Swedish band, Randy. And what was funny was that it was mainly indie kids, all in black shirts with white ties, joining in. There was one kid there who could only find a red tie, and loads of people were pointing him out and stuff. And I was like, "Hey, come on, guys! Billy Joe Armstrong's going to rock that shit in a couple of years, and you're all going to look really stupid." But the funny thing was that because it was all indie kids, they were sort of stood there watching, intently, trying to learn how to play all of the songs instead of having a big pit. And Randy were playing, and they go, "So is this how people in England behave at a punk rock show? You just stand there staring at us like we're doing something weird? What is this? Come on." And I remember thinking, oh God, these bands think they've come to play a punk show, and their audience have turned up going, "I don't really like punk music." It was really, really interesting. Anyway, sorry, bit of a deviance there. But yeah, so we got there sort of, the music started about 4:30.
Yeah,
it was in a tent. Slam Dunk had let the Slammy D, S-Dogs had let them use their stage. It was like the big tent rather than the outdoor stage, which I actually think I preferred.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I actually haven't seen a band on the main stage at Slam Dunk before, because whenever I've been to Slam Dunk, I've just been to the Punk in Drublic stage, headlined by NoFX, which is, I think, kind of their second stage, although it is a similar size to the tent stage that we were in. And I liked the tent. I didn't dislike the tent.
I tend to favour somewhere where the sound is a little more controllable, just from a sonic thing. Because, I mean, I saw Slayer at Leeds one year on the main stage, and it's hard for that to sound good because
Yeah.
all it takes is for the wind to be blowing in the wrong direction, and all of a sudden your mix just goes to shit.
Yeah. I
You
mean, I've
know,
seen some really good tight bands sound
Mm.
like shit in an
Yeah,
open air festival, including, oddly, Queens of the Stone Age did not work for me when they played, like, they did like an afternoon slot download.
Hmm.
And maybe it was just there was something about watching Queens of the Stone Age in like the glaring sunlight. But
maybe.
it also sounded not great.
Yeah, it's weird. And then sometimes if everything's right, it can sound great. But I preferred the and sonically the tent seemed to work for pretty much everyone. We'll get onto that. But the sound overall I thought was really really good.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean, let's
which
start with the Meths, because
yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
they opened, and
Yes.
like, I think a brilliant opener, great choice to open the entire
Absolutely
show.
fantastic. They are they're not Fat Records, so they're Bottles to the Ground, the sort of sister label or sub label of Fat Records for bands that don't fit the Fat sound, which is why they're label mates with Fishbone of all
Ah,
people, and a few others. And yeah, the Meths, go and see them. Really do. They're really really good. A two-piece from Essex. Really really good. Proper going for it in spite of the fact it was woefully underattended at that point.
yeah, a lot of people, as you made a good point on the day. People will be coming after work. There'll be
Yeah,
people that are coming for, like, less than Jake and NoFX,
yeah,
and aren't that bothered about the daytime bands.
yeah. Because this was
Um,
4:30 it started, and so I got there at about 3:15 and parked and got into the thing. They weren't letting anyone in until 4, and the first band
right,
started at 1/2 past. So it's sort of pretty pretty
pretty
close to the
tight.
wire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I know that, and there have been a lot of criticisms about, more so Slam Dunk than the NoFX day, but, like, my understanding is they've had a lot of logistical issues on site at both Slam Dunks. Last night they sent out a big groveling apology about the length of queues. I will be honest and say their excuse doesn't really wash, because,
No,
like, they basically they said, like, "Oh, we're sorry if you had a problem with queuing for the car park. It's just we didn't expect this many people to, like, pay on the day." And you're like, "But people can pay on the day. So if it is something that
yeah,
you have made possible for people to do,
yeah.
then that is something that you have to factor
Yeah.
into your traffic plans."
Yeah, but I mean, I assume they had to allow people to pay on the day because some people will miss it when they're looking to buy their tickets.
Yeah.
Because I got to the car park really early, drove in, and someone sort of waved me down to the thing, and then someone came up to my car window with a card reader and said, "Okay, it's £10 for the car park." I said, "It isn't." I mean, it's not on my ticket because I've paid £6 already, and they're like,
Yeah.
"What? What do you mean you've paid? Who did you pay?" I'm like, "When I bought the ticket," and then they got. I mean, basically, there were a lot of volunteers doing
Yeah.
work that they hadn't been fully trained on. So I wasn't upset with them. It was just
Yeah. It's
sort of
not their fault.
irritating. It's not their fault. It was the same with when I was getting the tickets scanned and stuff like that. There was one person who knew what they were doing, and a load of volunteers with "Hi, my name is Peter" on their badges, like volunteer. It was really weird, and they're sort of. And there was one guy who was sort of clearly trying to remember his training, because he kept saying, "May I take the phone off you? May you take the phone back from me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take my phone back from you. I'll willingly do that. Cheers," and stuff. Yeah, it was. It
I
was a
also, I,
little bit of a mess, but
I don't think they really, like checked my parking ticket. Like, they looked
they
at
didn't.
it,
They
but they
didn't
didn't
check
scan
mine.
it.
I just said that I'd paid, and they went, "All right."
Yeah. I mean, like, you could have easily got away with free parking.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I've spent that £6 now. That's a few paydays ago, so that's lost money as far as I'm concerned. No wonder I don't have a house. That and all my avocados. But yeah. So anyway, the Meths, properly good, really, really good. How are
And
you with them?
like, well, I mean, we'll get into how other bands sounded on the day, because,
Mm.
like, not all of it was sadly positive, but,
No.
like, how And I know that we've said the Meths don't have the fat sound, but the fat sound from her guitar, like how fat her
Oh yeah,
guitar sounded,
yeah.
it was crazy. Like, I mean, like the riffs that she was playing just like really, I don't know, like they just really hit hard. And like
They were
later you had bands on with up to like 3 guitarists, but
yeah.
like hers fucking sang through.
Yeah, enormous. I don't know what it was, some sort of doubler or pitch shifting thing going on with a sort of added bass that I don't know. I don't care really because it was just that good. Both of them sang,
Yeah,
and then yeah, the drums and yeah, really, really fucking good. Played as if they were headlining. Proper impressed with
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like I always love it when a band's like that. Also, she's got this thing where she sort of when she's not singing, she sort of struts. She stands on one side of the stage instead of central, but she sort of struts to the other side of the stage in this sort of stamping march because she's like in full skinhead get up. She's like boots, jeans, braces, and
Yeah.
a polo, and so this sort of marching up and down, and she's got this thing where she sort of holds her mouth open and it looks like she's slightly surprised at herself, which I found very endearing. But yeah, fucking staring down the crowd, really, really good. Also, there were, well, not including A Perfect Government by NoFX, there were two sort of famous songs that were covered over the course of the show,
Hmm.
the whole show,
Yeah.
all 6 bands, whatever. One of them came from the Meths, which was a truly inspired cover of "Breathe" by The Prodigy.
It was really fucking great, wasn't it?
She just started playing that riff down, 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 and it was just like, no,
Yeah.
really, and it was proper, proper, proper impressive. So
But our only criticism being they didn't, for some reason, do the psycho.
yeah,
Something
I think
insane.
insane. Yeah, I know, because we thought they were going to do that on the second time round, like the drummer was going to do that bit, and that
Yeah.
would have been so cool. But well, maybe.
Still a good cover.
Still absolutely works. Still absolutely works. Really, really good. And I think because I think they're from very similar place to where Keith Flint might have been from
Yeah,
because he was
absolutely. I was
Essex as
going to
well,
say
wasn't
that.
he?
Yeah,
So
they're both from Essex,
bit of
I
a
believe.
hometown hero kind of thing. I know Essex is a region rather than a town, but you know it's not that big. So yeah, that was yeah. So Meth's absolutely wonderful. I think. I should also point out we technically saw another band that a lot of other people didn't, because we saw Zero Cost.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The great guys from Zero Cost came
John
and
came
introduced
over
themselves.
and said, "Are you Eddie and Red?" And we said yes, and they said, "Oh, really love the podcast." So thank you so much, John. Really appreciate that. It was a lovely thing to do. Zero Cost are a band from the East Riding, from sort of Hull way.
Hmm.
So check them out on Bandcamp. I'll put their link in the show notes as well for their Bandcamp. Listen to them because that was a very nice thing to do. Only thing is, next time I'd have preferred you to have done it when there are a few more people around to hear it. But that's just my own vanity. But yeah, what a lovely thing that was. That really did. That really did do something for us. So thank you ever so much, John. Very, very
Also,
pleased.
whilst we are talking about the Meths,
Oh yes.
I I did embarrass myself later in the day.
Oh geez, yeah. Or I should
So
say, oh jazz, yeah.
so we went to get some food, which was, as expensive as you would imagine festival food to be,
Yeah.
and as uninspiring as you would imagine festival food to be.
Yeah.
Um, but as we
Actually
finished,
pretty woeful, but yeah.
as we got our food, we noticed that Jez was in the queue. And we walked down, and the Meths, both members of the Meths, were stood in front of Jez in the queue. And I waved to Jez, being like, "Hiya, mate." And the lead singer of the Meths waved at me, thinking that I waved at her. And then I just walked past her and started talking to our mate Jez. And
Yeah.
I didn't really notice that had happened until afterwards. I was kind of pretending that it hadn't happened.
Yeah. And then I made it real.
I'm sure, like, I felt as embarrassed as she did.
Do you know what? It's fine. It's that
Because she's just done like a big gig and they were awesome. Like, of
yeah.
course she would expect people to be waving at her.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, quite right too. Yeah, so it's a shame. So if the Meths ever do hear this, we're sorry that that happened. But
And
if nothing else, it's a bit like that scene in Alan Partridge where someone runs up to him and goes, "Are you Alan Partridge?" And he goes, "Yes, I am." I go, "Yeah, you've dropped your credit card." It was must have felt a bit like that.
I mean, we should potentially reach out to the Mavs. It would be.
I was intending on it. Yes, absolutely.
Mm,
I was going to work out a time when I don't think they've got any gigs on, so they might not be just ignoring unsolicited social media messages.
of course.
But yeah, absolutely. I think it would be great because they were wonderful, and their album was produced by Frank Turner, and which is another sort of NoFX collaborator connection, and yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. So watch this space. We very rarely mention people that we think we might try to get on the show because if it doesn't happen, that's embarrassing. But this is a little payback for the embarrassment we might have caused anyone from the Meths.
Absolutely, yeah,
So
because they
there
were
we go.
great and they deserved to have a great day, thinking that they're like just one of the best bands in the country because they
Oh yeah,
just fucking brought it.
absolutely. Yeah. No. If they're playing anywhere near you, absolutely go and see them. I find it hard to believe you'd be disappointed unless something dreadful happens. Anyway, so yeah, the Meths, wonderful, 10 out of 10.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think a perfect choice to start it all off.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of local, not that local, but national, local.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, but again, I suppose there's a thing where I don't know if this is just me in general or if other people feel this way a bit, but when a band like NoFX comes to the UK, you sort of always hope they're going to not just rely on local support, but bring
yes,
because because it's a treat for us to have, especially post Brexit. We won't, yeah, we mentioned it again, but especially post Brexit, having sort of US bands come over, especially the ones we like. The ones that we're proper into, the punk ones and stuff.
hmm
That's rarer and rarer. It feels so. Having sort of a slab of them at once is a real treat.
yeah, absolutely. And I was really impressed by how much the other bands supported the other bands. So like you would see a lot of bandmates from the other artists watching the earlier acts. I mean,
Oh
when
yeah, from the
we
stage and stuff. Yeah,
like even when the Meths were on, we could see El Jefe, we could see Smelly,
yeah,
later Mike,
yep.
And then they would pop out for some of the other bands as well.
They were all watching each other, which was really really nice. Yeah, such a cool thing. And I suppose this is where again it's a bit like a festival must be a bit like the Fringe Festival. We the Edinburgh Fringe. Red and I both done it a load, and sometimes it is the only time of the year. It's the whole of August, an arts festival in August. A lot of comedy, a lot of international and whatever art and all this stuff. It's remarkable. But sometimes it's the only time of the year when you see certain people who you would otherwise hang out with more if we were normal people who had normal jobs and didn't spend all of our evenings out doing work essentially.
Yeah.
So it's so I think it must be like that for bands when you move out of your local scene into the national touring scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Pardon me.
lovely to see, co-defendants who were the second band on the bill, like they were watching the Meths and just like
Yeah,
being so like visibly supportive to the band
yeah.
in front of them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was really really exciting. Which brings us neatly onto the second band on the day, which was the Co-Defendants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like them. I can't
Yep.
say as I fully got the co-defendants. I don't think I fully understood exactly what they were going for. However, I will give them benefit of the doubt because I do think they were having some sound issues.
There was, yeah, the mix wasn't stunning, I've got to say.
Mm.
I think when you've got very very fast rap from
Yeah.
the guitarist slash vocalist, I don't know his name, I'm afraid. That not Sam from Get Dead. But the other guy who sometimes plays guitar, he has got a large beard. That should differentiate him enough. But like clearly good at what he was doing, but I couldn't really hear. I've heard the record a couple of times, a lot on Bandcamp and stuff, and it's okay for me. Like it's clearly good for what it is. It maybe it will grow on me after a time. There are some songs that really stand out that I like a lot.
Yeah, and it felt like there was a lot of, I don't know, like the songs didn't all gel together for me, but like not necessarily in a bad thing. Like I like
Yeah.
it when a band offers a lot of variety in what they do, but
Yeah.
over like a half an hour set, it felt a little bit, you know, being tugged in all directions.
Yeah, but you know, but they were certainly giving it some. Like there was
Yeah.
nothing, flawless as far as the sort of musicianship went.
Yeah.
Really, really good. So, yeah, had the mix been a little bit better, there's not a bit sort of less to say. They were a lot more. Oh, Red, you found your new comparing style off of Sam.
Oh yes, of course.
Which
What was he saying again? What was
he was essentially just saying,
we've got no effects up in this motherfucker.
yeah, yeah, basically, yeah.
We've got less than Jake up in
Up
this
in this
motherfucker.
motherfucker. And it's like,
So
that's how you're going
that's
to
what I'm going
announce
to do
act.
next time I compare a gig. I'm just
Yeah.
going to be like, we've got Eddie French up in this motherfucker. And then like the small crowd in, I don't know, like in Cottingham are going to be
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. They'll really G him up. What it is basically comedy has been a bit too placid for too long. So, because it never looks ridiculous when a comedian behaves like a rock star. You know, I think Andrew Dice Clay has proved that you look sensible and good when you do that. Does he even do that anymore? I don't know. He was in that film with Lady Gaga where he played her dad, and he was seems like what the world has gained in a boring comedian, they lost in quite a reasonable dramatic actor. Never mind. Anyway, that's we're doing a film podcast again. I can't believe it. We'll try not to. The 12th remake of A Star Is Born. Anyway,
or the second remake of Crazy Heart.
Crazy Heart.
Oh, so the new Star Is Born is just Crazy Heart starring Jeff Bridges.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just the same film. Like, because obviously Star Is Born was previously not about a country star. It was about a different type of genre of musical artist. And then this time they're like, how about we do it about a country star? But like that had already been done because the movie Crazy Heart is essentially the same story. And I think a much better, interesting film.
Fair enough. Very possibly. Yeah, but there was a sad bit with a garage door.
Yeah.
And that man is sometimes the raccoon off of the Marvels.
And there is a great scene where Sam Elliott reverses a car full of emotion. It's the best bit in Star Is Born, like when he just reverses a car, just sad.
Oh yeah, that is good, isn't it?
Isn't it great?
Yeah, with Sam Elliott though, he's going to steal the scene, isn't he? Fuck it, we're doing it again, right? So. Yeah, co-defendants. I think it's because I don't really have much to say about co-defendants. And there were people there sort of proper getting into it. A small number of them, but some people who were properly going for it.
Yeah, and I think they are a really, really good band to add to that lineup because obviously you'd had the Meths with like this real heavy sound, but just a couple of them on stage. And then to go to, how many, did they have like 5 or 6 members, co-defendants?
3 guitarists, bass player, singer, drummer, and then I can only assume that guy stood at the side with the laptop was also throwing in some of the more samplier sounds.
But they were like really good for like the energy side of it. I think that they introduced a lot of, the ska elements that we're going to hear more and more throughout the day.
Yes, that's true. Yep, that was all pretty good. So no, they were definitely a good addition to the lineup. Definitely, I'm just not there yet with them. If I ever will be, and I don't know if I will. I hope I am because people who are into them seem to really be getting a lot out of it. So maybe one day I'll look back on this and kick myself a bit for not already being into them. But we'll find out.
I do like their whole two frontmen thing. I think that
Yep.
works well, and I think they do it well.
Yes. Oh, well, the microphones kept on screwing up, so there was some incredibly fluid microphone swapping between the singers.
But
And
you
stuff
know
like
what?
that.
Like they took it in their stride. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I saw Mad Caddies on the Punk and Drublic stage at Slam Dunk a couple years ago. They were having sound issues, but like the singer let us fucking know about it, and he had a little bit of a strop on stage. But like co-defendants were just like, okay, let's
Yeah.
fuck it. Okay, this microphone isn't working. On to the next one.
Well, I mean, the singer from the Mad Caddies has gone on to have a few more strops, which is why,
I've heard. So disappointing.
yeah, which is now why the Mad Caddies are that guy and some people who are willing to play on stage with him for money.
A little bit more mad, less caddies.
Yeah, well, Mad, and all the caddies have gone.
Real shame as well, because Mad Caddies are one of my favourite bands on Fat Wreck.
Oh, they are, yeah. I know you
on
love
album,
them, don't you?
but I he's gone off the deep end with some of his views.
Yeah, it happens. I'm afraid he might.
does.
Hey, who knows? He might be able to join that Mighty Boss Tones band, the Dickie Barrett's new what are they called, like the super cool rebel boys who don't need no vaccines or what. I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, maybe he'll join them. Oh well. Not to worry. Well, Comeback Kid. Wow, what do we got to say about Comeback Kid?
Well, we went and got food during Comeback Kid, didn't we?
We did, yeah. And I'm sorry. Basically, it was such a smooth operation. This festival, the turnaround time was literally 20 minutes between bands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was impressive, actually.
It was super impressive, but it basically meant there was no feasible way of going and doing something like getting some food, or heaven forfend you try and get any merch at the NoFX stand. Fuck me, let's talk about that. The line at the NoFX, there was a NoFX merch booth specifically for NoFX t-shirts, because I assume they've done a bumload of t-shirts for this. I'm assuming 40 t-shirts, that's my guess.
Yeah, of the different dates across the world.
Because let's just say when Mike gets an idea in his head, he sticks to it. So the 40 dates, the 40 songs, the 40 whatever, 40 cities, 40 t-shirts to go with it. Because I've seen people showing the different designs. There's one of Fat Mike as the nurse from the Enema of the State Blink-182 album cover.
No way.
Yeah, with the glove and stuff. Yeah.
Should have queued.
Mate, I think they were sold in Barcelona. I don't know if they're selling them in the same places or not. If they're sort of, because Mike's got that vinyl collector thing about him, where some things have to be rare and important instead of But anyway, so that's fine. But that queue was always longer than the bar, and never seemed to get shorter.
I mean, it was easily like an hour-long queue, wasn't it, to get a t-shirt?
Oh, safely, yeah. If we'd have got there and missed the MEFs and most of co-defendants, probably all of co-defendants, there's a very good chance. People were getting in and just heading straight to the merch stand.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like there were some people who'd arrived without T-shirts on.
Well, and it was also quite easy to miss that there was another merch stand in the far corner of the arena, which was selling the merch of all of the other bands that were on. Yes. And there wasn't really a queue there.
No, not at all. We didn't see one there at all. There was also the Fat Records one where you could buy vinyl, which seemed like a really impractical purchase at an all-day festival. However, there were lockers and stuff, storage places you could, like at a train station or whatever. So I suppose some people were putting their stuff there. So this is what Greg and I observed while Comeback Kid were playing. We heard some of them from a bit further away. Sounded fine.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're not here to be like, oh, Comeback Kid weren't good and that's why we didn't go and see them. It just, like, as Eddie said, you kind of have to sacrifice one of the bands on the bill if you want to go and get some food or queue for something. And of the bands in the lineup, we kind of just fancied them the least a little
Yeah.
bit because they are quite different. Like, so they are like a proper down the line hardcore band. Like, it's heavy, it's serious, they
Yeah.
mean business. And like, I don't know, at a NoFX concert, I'm more interested in like the silly side of things. And not to
Or a
say
bit
that the
more.
Meths
Yeah.
or co-defendants were silly, but like they were certainly playful.
I think a punk band doing a cover of a Prodigy song
Yeah.
shows a layer that, shows a layer that there is something else going on. And also, a lot of her lyrics are sort of quite sarcastic in a sort of, rather than being quite sort of po-faced and down the line. There's a bit more going on. Whereas again, Hardcore Kid might have some of the wittiest and sort of
Comeback
poetic
Kid.
lyrics. Who did I
I
say?
think you called them Hardcore Kid.
Hardcore Kid. Okay, sorry. That was a genuine mistake. That was funny. Anyway, Hardcore Kid. Comeback Kid may well have some of the wittiest lyrics or whatever, but I don't know. I simply don't know them. And of all the bands there, they were the, sadly, fairly obvious choice for me, simply because I don't have a previous relationship with them.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And I didn't want to pass out from hunger during the bands that I'd come to see specifically.
Yeah,
Because
I just happened to be hungry, and I happened to be hungry at that point.
yeah,
So and I wasn't missing Lagwagon
no,
for love nor money.
no, absolutely. Well, the thing is also all the support bands were doing about half an hour each.
Yeah, pretty like quite
Pretty
short
tight,
sets relatively.
short sets, quite tight, sound wise, time wise. So so there was there was a band on roughly every 50 minutes,
Yeah,
which is wild.
yeah.
A
I mean,
whole
the day
set.
didn't drag at all.
No, 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 absolutely. It was it was, I know that it was wonderful in that sense. So because sometimes you can, I mean, sometimes, especially like if you get like a big main stage headliner, you can end up with like 50 minutes from this band finishing to this band starting because
Yeah.
they've got to set up their special stuff. And it's like, yeah, all right, okay, but could you get on quicker and do more songs if you weren't setting up your pyrotechnics?
But then also, interestingly, it was in the tent at Slam Dunk where during Slam Dunk, what they do is they have two stages on either side of the arena. And then when a band finishes on one side of the tent,
Yeah.
a band immediately starts on the other side of the tent and the crowd just kind of switches over.
Yeah.
They didn't use the second stage, which is interesting, but I kind of I'm absolutely fine with it given like how quick the turnover was in between bands.
Well, I imagine that meant they only had to properly furnish one of the stages.
Yeah.
Because obviously this was a day when Slam Dunk wasn't supposed to be being used or open. And it was interesting because I think, they didn't use the main stage because I imagine the capacity was probably a quarter or a third of what Slam Dunk would have been. I've got no evidence on that, but I'm just looking at the sort of number of people. Because I mean, when it started, there must have been 1,000 people there, barely. It was it was super empty, and probably people coming from work or and all that kind of stuff. And it started to sort of pick up around the sort of end of Lagwagon, beginning of Less Than Jake was when it started to fill up. But yeah, so let's let's talk about feelings. Let's talk about Lagwagon.
Lagwagon are they're my second favorite band on the lineup on the day. One of my favorite bands off of Fat Wreck. But I think we've got to be honest here that the sound quality was bad.
It was pretty gutting, I've got to say.
I've seen them. That would have been my third time seeing them, and sadly, the worst time I've seen them. But purely down to like sound issues, which I don't think are the band's fault at all. Really,
you could tell they were playing tight. They were playing like genuinely. They were proper up for it, and doing their thing. Great. It started with what was it, Alienate, and that was that sounded fine.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, the mix just really went off, and we were sort of stood fairly close to the mixing desk as well. It
Yeah,
was
because we were
a
getting a
shame.
lot of drums, we were getting a
Yeah,
lot of bass.
yeah,
The guitars sounded quite thin, and then
mm,
just barely any vocal.
yeah. Of any of them,
Yeah, yeah.
and that was a great
But
shame.
we noticed that it got better as the set went on. By like their final three songs, they'd kind of worked out the mix a little bit.
When they got to May 16th, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always forget the number, but yeah, May 16th, which was the last one they did. That sounded pretty good, to be fair. So
Yes,
it
it
did
did. Yeah.
pick up. Um,
And I, we observed like Lagwagon have a certain look about them,
hmm.
and my guess is that they're all really big into Star Wars.
Yes, because there was a bit that sounded like the Imperial March.
Yeah, when he was like testing out the drum kit.
Yeah, he's just like doom 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 doom. It was like his toms were tuned to the Imperial March notes. Um, and yeah, we're like, yeah, so maybe they're all just real science fiction types, and I don't know. Do they have any songs about Asimov's, rules of robotics, or maybe not? So if you can confirm or deny Lagwagon's Star Wars fandom, we'd love to know.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just getting big Star Wars fan vibes from them.
I I also found it really confusing that we come to the second cover that wasn't by NoFX this evening.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this still.
I think I know how I feel about it. Lagwagon, in their half an hour, chose to devote one of those lengths of time to a cover of Brown Eyed Girl.
Yeah, Van Morrison's Brown Eyed Girl, which I understand now is like, like they've done it in the past. It's,
Oh, I think it's fairly early recording, or it was a staple of Lagwagon performances for a long time. It's possible that it was one that always went down well in the UK,
yeah, yeah.
and it might just have been that they're doing the UK favourites. I don't know, but I thought very
It'd be
strange.
interesting to see what their set list was at like on the other dates of this tour that they've done, whether it's the
Yeah,
same.
I mean the thing is that I found it. I don't know. I think it's just because I don't really think it's that great a cover because it's basically the same, just very fast.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't have that problem with the Meths doing Breathe because one, it's sort of
You'd never
it's
heard the song like that. I
yeah,
don't
it's kind of
know.
an out there one. It's sort of it's just a sort of I don't know.
But I think the difference is the arrangement of Breathe lends itself to punk rock, whereas in the Brown Eyed Girl cover, it feels like they're almost fighting against the song, like trying
Yeah,
to like stranglehold it into sounding like a punk song. But I don't think it has the chord arrangement of punk music.
or the rhythm,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, maybe. Um, yeah, it just seemed a little bit strange. It also, when I was looking on Instagram yesterday, which is the day after we watched this show, and I saw that a very much sort of ringer based Me First and the Gimme Gimmes were playing at the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas. And because normally the drummer from Lagwagon and Joey Cape
Yes, I've seen this as well. Yeah.
are key members, and it was just like it's literally just Spike,
Yeah.
and I couldn't recognize any of them. I imagine they're all from incredibly prestigious punk bands, but I simply don't know who they were, which I just thought was a bit weird. And I'm like, were they doing that to try and sort of send some cosmic vibes of gimme style covers? Oh, anyway, yeah. Sadly, there isn't really much to say about Lagwagon. They were giving it their all. They were proper enjoying themselves and letting the audience know how excited they were. There were every band was very talkative with the crowd,
Yeah.
just about maybe Comeback Kid, maybe the Hardcore Kids weren't, but I don't know. Again, we can't speak to them, but everyone we saw was very vocal about how how honored they were, how excited they were to be a part of this momentous thing, I suppose, which was very, very nice to hear. So anything more on Lagwagon?
No, but I do want to reiterate, they were great. Like they
Yes.
performed well, they played well. It just
Yeah.
didn't sound great, and I don't think that's their fault.
It's not their fault. No, it is a shame. And yeah, disappointing, but not for any kind of everyone, and I'll say this about Comeback Kid as well, because you could just tell from when you sort of heard them from afar. Everyone was giving their all at this event,
Yeah.
including the people who were doing the sound, and all the rest of it. Sometimes it doesn't work the way you want it to, but they were fixing problems as they came along, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, really, really wonderful the way that all worked out. Which brings us to the sort of the main support, I guess,
Yeah.
time wise. Anyway, I think they don't. I think they were put on that time largely because they'd only just arrived in the UK.
Okay.
Because Roger or Chris from Less Than Jake said something to the effect of, "We're jet lagged and constipated."
Right.
So I don't know if they'd just landed and then got zoomed over to do this or what. But Less Than Jake, how do you enjoy him?
So I'm not, hey, I'm not a Less Than Jake fan. I don't
Sure.
dislike them. I don't hate them. But there's something about them that doesn't like click with me. Like I am a Lagwagon fan, but I wouldn't say I'm a Less Than Jake fan. But I thought they were pretty great. Like
Yeah.
they performed well. Good choice of songs. And nice to see like a full brass section.
Yep, absolutely. It was I like Less Than Jake. I like them probably more as a live band.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've not been keeping up with them, so some of their later records might be recorded in a way that is more live. Because I think the songs really do hit live more than they do on record.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where you see them live and then you go back and you listen to the album and you go and you sort of the recording gives you the feeling of the live, even though it's not quite. It's that kind of thing. Sometimes some bands are very hard to capture.
Yeah.
But as far as enthusiasm and also they just the skill, the performance, everything was really, really great. So
I also like credit where it's due, like because I kind of wanted Lagwagon to do main support, but then when Less Than Jake got to their final couple songs, they were such like big sing along anthems that I do have to put my hands up and go, okay, I can see why they're main support and Lagwagon's just that one slot down the bill. Because of Lagwagon, I think May 16 is the only song that just everybody there fucking knows.
Oh, it went off when they played that. That was
Yeah.
silly, crazy. Yeah. So they
But
played
then
Violins, they played Alienate, Brown Eyed Girl, some others.
Razorburn.
Oh yeah, Razorburn.
But yeah, but then the last couple songs of Less Than Jake, like it went off. Like everyone was like singing, and it was very loud, response from the crowd. So I do get why they're main support on this.
Also, which is kind of actually emphasizes your point. They managed to do that whilst contractually being prevented from playing anything from Hello Rockview.
Yes, because they're playing that in full at Slam Dunk this weekend.
Yeah, that's part of their show. Is they're doing the whole of Hello Rockview, so they weren't allowed to play anything. They weren't allowed to play. Is it all or some of My Best Friends Are Metalheads? They couldn't play that one, and that was sort of everywhere in the UK. They. I think also I think Less Than Jake are just more popular in the UK than Lagwagon are.
Yeah, I think
so. Having them there means that there'll be less complaining from people who couldn't get there until after work and all the rest of it. So, and it was notably fuller for Less Than Jake than it was for Lagwagon.
Yeah,
not really a lot to say, but yeah, really a great performance. They were having a great time, and I always love to see that. Yeah, Gainesville Rock City, which they opened with, I really, really like that song anyway, and that was really, really good. It was all sort of they did Johnny Quest thinks we're sellouts. It was all the high So they did. And Science of Selling Yourself Short, which is really, really good. So yeah, they big tick in the box there. That's the thing, is that none of the bands we saw even came close to being bad.
Yeah,
They were
no,
all
absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
Some of them plagued by some problems. Very few of them to do with the actual band themselves. Really, really impressive. Which brings us. We've been recording for 50 minutes, and we've just got to. But I think this is important. You know, this wasn't just. This was an
It's a
event. It
full
wasn't.
day.
It wasn't just a No Effects show. It was a full event.
Yeah,
Sort of all going towards this celebration of No Effects.
absolutely.
And they played as well. So yeah, they came on. They came on to the Time Warp, which
Oh man, that was so good.
wasn't it?
They just did a little sing along to Time Warp.
They were doing
I
the
didn't know it's what I
dances.
needed in my life, but I needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. They were doing the dance steps. They were all, they were going for it. It was properly good fun. And yeah, well, it must have been about 2 hours they did, including their piss break. Yeah, if your piss smells like cocaine.
I think they did genuinely do a piss break.
I think they might have do a piss break, actually. Yeah, but
I think Mike did cocaine before the show,
oh well, yeah, obviously he did cocaine before the show.
which he made comments of during the show.
Well, you've not heard this from me, but apparently someone who I was talking to a friend of mine, a music industry insider, who said that there are people high up at Slam Dunk in the organization process who are devotees of cocaine,
Oh, okay.
and as such would be able, or certainly have been, who would
Allegedly.
who would potentially be able to source some of that should anyone pardon me. And sneezing like that in the middle of that sentence, I understand, does not look good on me right now. Mind you, if you've been listening to this conversation between Red and I, go, well, at least one of them's definitely on cocaine, then I don't think you know what cocaine is. So yeah, anyway, it was. They seemed. I mean, I know some of them are, but they seemed to be very sober,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
not hedonistically indulging enough to appear it, which is
potentially
great.
not drinking, but maybe a line or two.
I think Mike did point out that he was drinking vodka,
Oh, okay.
but he had a pint glass with a straw, but he didn't drink a lot from it.
But they just didn't seem intoxicated, and I have seen them intoxicated at previous gigs. I mean, listening to they've actually gotten worse live. I mean, you could tell that they're like quite fucked up.
And again, I think it's mainly Mike.
Yeah, that's true.
Because obviously Smelly sober since 92.
Yeah.
Melvin never appears to give off anything more than like
just
a joint an hour ago kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Hefe, whatever Hefe's on, he's just Hefe. He's just he's just always going to be doing his shtick, which was great. And yeah, absolutely wonderful. So yeah, so they came on to the Time Warp, and yeah, they did. What I liked was they didn't do all of Punk in Drublic or all of Wolves in Wolves Clothing. They did most of the stuff from
all mixed together as well. I was expecting it in order because I hadn't been checking the set list, which I know that you had been.
I've been seeing them. I didn't sort of the Punk Rock Elite Instagram account algorithm just shows me the No Effects crew stuff mainly, very rarely anything else. So set lists and stuff like that do come up. Do follow us on there, by the way. We're not on Twitter because come on, not doing that to ourselves. So I don't think they like to repeat stuff or the same order anyway. So, and I think it works better that way because it was kind of exciting because you knew that these particular songs were coming.
Yeah.
But you didn't know when. Because I think there was... Because I think they finished Dying Degree. They played the Quas and Dying Degree in the way they come on the album, which is sort of blending into one another.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I think the song after that is Don't Call Me White, and they didn't play
It's
that till
Franco on American.
Hmm?
They did Franco on American after Dying Degree.
Yes, they did, but on Punk and Drublick, I think
Right,
it goes
sure, yeah.
into Don't Call Me White.
Yes, yeah.
I think, and it didn't. But because I just heard Dying Degree of the Quas and Dying Degree, I was ready to hear Don't Call Me, and they wound it, got that instead.
Wasn't
Great.
expecting 2 songs off Coaster back to back.
Oh yeah. Well, they always do that one in Leeds because they get to
yeah,
say
because
the
of
Leeds a week.
the intro
Glengarry,
from...
Glen Ross
Yes.
intro. Yeah, yeah, because I saw them at Leeds Festival do that, and Mike got really excited. Oh, wait, we can do this one properly. We can do this one properly. The Leeds a week. Yeah,
The Leeds a week.
You're a week. Yeah. So that was fun. And what was the other one they did? Was it the Quitter?
No, they did Franco on American into We Call It America.
Yes.
Which is the one that has the Leeds a week.
Franco on American is on War on Errorism.
No, We Called It America is the opening track to Coaster.
Yes, Franco on American is...
Oh, sorry. I'm mishearing you.
You are. Franco on American is War on Errorism. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, of course you are. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think there's only one on Coaster. Oh, I can't remember.
You are completely right. Like, I don't know what my brain decided that Franco on America was on Coaster, but it's very much not.
I think they just did 2 America songs, but they did...
That's why, like...
Yeah.
There's something about, like, the George Bush era of NoFX, which bleeds into Coaster, and it...
Oh, yeah, there's a little bit... It bleeds into Coaster, and then he forgets it by the time he does First Call.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guys, I drink booze now. It's like, yeah, we know, love, we know. Hey, look at this. It's a pill of ecstasy drug. I eat these all the time, thanks. Like, yep. I take all of these pharmaceuticals. That'll come back to bite you. Anyway, fuck day 6, right, guys? Yeah, I mean, firstly, Kent, their manager / sound guy, what a fucking wizard. They sounded incredible.
Yeah, they did.
Such a beautiful, beautiful mix. It was just... Everything was just clear as crystal. It was gorgeous.
To the point where you're like, did they sabotage the earlier band?
They just didn't have Kent. That was it. They just, whatever it was. They might have sabotaged. That would have been funny. But yeah, they was brilliant. The secret sauce that NoFX has been missing all these years, Karina Denike. I know we're biased.
Yeah.
I certainly am. But fuck, she elevated that band something chronic, right?
She really brings something to the band that just isn't there without her.
Yeah, absolutely. The harmonies and keyboard stuff as well, absolutely, vital for some of it. But just everything and they use her quite sparingly. I would have been much more. I imagine I wouldn't have been able to resist, just going, oh, maybe Karina should do some singing on them. But when she came in, she was brilliant. Oh, I mean, highlight for me, tears in my eyes when she did Laurie Myers.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So good. And massive fan favorite. So many people love that song because when it started with no fanfare, it just click started in. The crowd went off.
Yeah,
absolutely insane. Like up there with like how they went for Linoleum.
Yeah, it was a big
massive
one.
response. Really, really good. And yeah, absolutely fantastic. It was
And I mean, such a strong start. You like 60% to Sticking in My Eye, to Seeing Double at the Triple Rock, to Leave It Alone, to Perfect Government. I mean, the first 5 tracks are just all fucking
Have you
go,
got the set list up? Have you got the set list up?
Oh yeah.
Where's that from?
Setlist FM.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah. Which is a great website if you ever want to find out the set lists of your favorite bands as they are touring. It's like a user updated website where they just update all of the set lists. And it's they did 37 songs on the night.
37. Okay, let's have a look here. Yep. Oh, they've also put in the we march to the beat of indifferent drum, reggae style, like on Actually Gotten Worse Live. My preferred version.
Yeah, I think it's my preferred version as well. Because it goes heavy.
It does, but I think it's Hefe sings it, which is really, really good. And again, it just sort of it differentiates it a little bit more. It makes it a bit more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hello everyone, Eddie here. Red and I hope you're enjoying our show. If you have been and would like to help us make it a little more easily, then you can donate to us at our Ko-fi page, which is ko-fi.com/punkrockelite, or you can look in the show notes for our link tree. If you can't help us financially, we totally understand, but would love it if you spread the word to other people who would like this podcast. We thank you for your continued support. We massively appreciate it. Back to the show. 72 Hookers. Great. Sorry, We Are the Union. It's a good song. Then they did one off of single album.
Yeah, I didn't know if they'd actually done anything off a single album or double album, but yeah, you're
I Love
right,
You More Than I Hate Me.
Yeah.
Not my favourite one off of it, but it's all right. But look, again, I think that if they'd purely done what was expected of them or what people wanted, I think they wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. So, The Cause, which he said was bad.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? He said, like, no one likes this song, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah. It's The Cause.
We like The Cause, but I get what you mean. Like, it's not a standout favourite of anyone's.
No, but then they played Fleas as if that was a good song. Weird.
Well, there's a few songs on here which, I don't even really fully remember hearing. I don't really remember Punk Guy.
That's
Fleas, as you mentioned. Benny Got Blowed Up. I don't really remember that.
The Man I Killed. I remember that one. I think I remember all of these. Idiots Are Taking Over was great.
Yes, and
Mike was very concerned.
We were saying, like, what songs do you think that aren't on the two albums that they're definitely going to play, which is Wolf in Wolf's Clothing and Punk in Drublic. And Idiots Are Taking Over was one of my guesses, because they just always, I think every time I've seen them live, they've played it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They didn't play Bob, which I thought they would have done.
Yeah, I really thought we were going to get All Out Angst.
Yes, shame we didn't really, but that's how it goes. But I think they were being sparing with songs that they would be playing in Hatfield, knowing that there'd be plenty of people going there who were also at Leeds. So
yeah, because we didn't even get Eat the Meek or anything.
No, again, I think that's why there's some other things, more reggae versions of that kind of thing would be on. But yeah, Laurie Myers, Scavenger Type, and Linoleum.
Scavenger Type, Linoleum closing the first half.
Yes, and it even says on Setlist FM here, Linoleum band took a 5-minute piss break.
Yeah, in air quotes.
In quotation marks there, yeah, absolutely. So yeah. Oh, then we got to the one that we knew Sully would go off for. Open the second section with Leaving Jesus Land.
Absolutely. And I think Leaving Jesus Land, there's a few highlights here, but Leaving Jesus Land was one of mine. I think it was a great song to start the second half with. But are there any, what are your highlights from the first half?
That's a good idea. Laurie Myers.
Yeah.
Laurie Myers was amazing. Stick It In My Eye.
I quite like the Marxist Brothers.
Yeah, that was good too. I like the Marxist Brothers.
Because during the Marxist Brothers, we had the realization of what we should have called the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
The revolution is going to be a podcast.
Yeah.
Which we sang together, and then you just went, fuck!
Yeah. That's true. I'd forgotten about that. Oh, no.
However, I still think that Punk Rock Elite is a better name for the podcast because eventually, we might spread our wings into other areas of, similar music. We might do an episode on Rancid or Bad
Yeah,
Religion or other things like that. And I think the name we've
yeah,
got is a little bit more malleable.
I think so. Yeah, I think the format of Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman sort of thing, which was exclusively a Batman podcast, and then started just being about general nerd shit, slowly sort of turned into that over time, and then they changed it to Fat Man Beyond. Uh,
That's clever.
yeah, because it had been ages since they spent episodes talking about Marvel, um, you know. Game of Thrones, everything, because there was no Batman or DC news. So they were just like, yeah, let's just change it and turn it into another thing. And I sort of felt that with this podcast being about essentially one thing that encompasses a lot of things, but being about
Yes.
one thing, it's kind of narrow for all of our interests. And so, yeah, one day this will be general punk rock stuff, but I think using NoFX as a prism to talk about general US and 90s punk, 90s onwards punk, is a pretty good place to start. But yeah, the Marxist Brothers was really, really good. Um, 72 Hookers was really good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Franco on American, it's probably the only song here which I confidently know the words to, like
hmm,
all of them. Um, yeah, I mean, like that was great, and I didn't expect Franco on American for some reason. I'd like, it is one of my favorite NoFX tracks. I love to hear it live,
hmm.
but I just for some reason I just didn't think they would play that.
I I thought they would do, just because I think the video got a lot of play on like Kerrang TV and stuff like
Right,
that.
sure.
And so I think the sort of the more popular ones. Again, I was sort of surprised that they didn't play Bob, because that I wasn't gutted, because I like Bob just fine, but it is like a big thing.
Yeah,
But anyway, so yeah, so that was the first section. So they did 21 songs without doing a piss. So aren't they clever? Um, beg your pardon. Some good chat in between.
yeah, some really good chat. Funny stuff, particularly from the start. I didn't feel there was as much interaction specifically between Hefe and Mike as I have seen in previous shows.
No, it appeared not. There was no, there wasn't. I don't know if
And
that's.
I don't know if I should read into that, sometimes there just isn't,
Oh,
sometimes
I mean,
there's no reason for that, but
my knee jerk reaction was to think maybe it's because they've got a show to be getting on with.
yeah,
Like, they've got two albums and change to
yeah.
be doing, and maybe the messing around and the interaction between each
But
other
I
stems
didn't
from a
see them
thing where.
I would see Mike go over and play with Melvin a lot, and Hefe
Mm,
go over and play with Melvin, and both of them, like sort of like play towards Smelly and whatever.
mm.
I didn't see as much Mike and Hefe like bonding on stage, and I don't know if I should read into that or not.
I don't know. Often Hefe would have been playing a guitar solo, and I don't know
Yeah,
if he just doesn't respond when Mike goes over to him when he's playing a solo, because he's a bit of a muso, and he likes to get it right. And I don't
yeah,
know. Again, they were hugging and stuff by the end. I don't think it was a.
yeah. You're right. Yeah,
It was. I mean, sort of. I always think of their interactions as being quite verbal,
yes,
and I think that maybe they just knew they didn't really have the time, because sometimes
yeah. You're
they
right. Yeah.
do more talking than music, because they were kind of bored.
Hmm.
Whereas with this, I think there's sort of a renewed vigor, because again they're like practicing. They're getting this stuff nailed down. They're doing like rehearsals before each show. They're going to rehearsal studios in the cities that they're playing,
Hmm.
and working on stuff. And I don't know if that's something that maybe Hefe was like looking for in the band a little bit, being the most professional music. They're all professional musicians. They play music for a living. You know what I mean? But being the most sort of, because he went to school for it and stuff. You know, he went to college for music, and so maybe that's a little bit more satisfying in a way. I don't know. This is pure speculation. I don't want to speculate on that, but it's something to worth thinking about, I guess. But so after the band had a nice big piss together, I don't know.
Yes.
Started off with leaving Jesus Land. That was quite a moment. You might have seen it on social media. There was someone at the Leeds gig dressed as Jesus.
Yeah, and I said, like, I clocked him earlier in the day, and I said he's going to have a lot of fun during leaving Jesus Land.
Well, yeah, I think because there was pretty much a guarantee that it would be played.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So up on up on someone's shoulders, and yes, was pointed out and enjoyed by every member of the band. I think
I
great.
listened to Wolves in Wolves Clothing on the way to the gig, and leaving Jesus Land was just stuck in my head all morning, all afternoon.
Yeah.
So like I was pretty made up hearing that live finally.
Oh yeah, no, it cleared out the brainworm. But yeah, it's actually, since Sully mentioned it, it's been one that sort of does recur in their head, and it is the Mel yell. It was just so good. In fact,
Yeah.
I think Fat Mike even pointed out the Mel yell in that.
And there were a few great Mel yells like throughout. I know obviously in Idiots Are Taking Over, but like it's a little bit of a highlight. You know, it's something I'm going to sorely miss.
Yes, and also the Melvin doing the verse vocals in "Sticking in My Eye," which is how it should have been.
Yes, of course.
You know, when that started happening live, I was like, "Why was this not on the record?" And I think just what you learn in it. But yeah, great stuff from there. What's the matter with parents today? The only appearance from Pump Up the Valum, I think. No Dinosaurs Will Die.
No Dinosaurs Will Die, no Separation of Church and Skate, which were my two guesses for what would appear.
I wasn't sure about Church and Skate, but I did think that we would get Dinosaurs Will Die because it's oh well, you don't get everything you want. But I was more surprised than I was upset. But yeah, weird. But
yeah, definitely an odd choice. I will be brutally honest and say I did prefer the first half to the second half. Not that I didn't enjoy the second half. I had a great time.
I think the a few aside, the I wasn't that bothered about the first half of the second section, but when it got to Mattersville onwards,
sure,
that's pretty great.
Yeah, that is pretty great. Yeah.
Oh, I beg your pardon. There was something. There was Bottles to the Ground. That was also on Valum, but we're jumping ahead of ourselves. Actually, Getting High on the Down Low, I like a lot. Although it does sound a lot like their song. I'm a huge fan of Bad Religion. Don't know if you've heard that song.
I haven't, no.
It's very good. It's a song about Fat Mike being a big fan of Bad Religion, but it does sound a bit like Getting High on the Down Low. But I like that one. Wolves in Wolves Clothing was very good.
Yeah, I just feel like they really packed the first half with like big songs, and then the second half there's just a lot of album tracks, and
it wasn't spread out, was it? Yeah, I guess. And they played Instant Classic as well, which I think is stupid, but whatever.
I mean, it's fine, but it's kind of half a song, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that Instant Classic and Punk Guy would have fitted in very nicely in one of their 8 songs in 6 minutes or whatever.
Yes, which they didn't do here. They didn't do one of those, did they?
No, they didn't. And again, who are we to question? But it just seemed like a sort of a strange thing to do. They did include My Heart Is Yearning.
Yeah, which we were certain was not going to make an appearance here because we know that not every song off of Punk in Drublic and Wolf in Wolf's Clothing is going to get played. And we
Yes.
just kind of assumed that My Heart is Yearning would be first off the list.
Yeah. It says at the bottom of here, there was a note that Jeff Wears Birkenstocks was on the set list
Yes.
but not played.
So and I think that goes to what you were saying about them being tight for time.
Yeah.
Like they clearly knocked one off of the set list because they just didn't have time.
Yes. Drugs Are Good
Yeah.
from the Ho Effects
It's
EP.
actually not an EP I've listened to yet.
Yeah. It's not one of my favorites. It's okay.
Because our next episode may be on that and the kids. Fuck the Kids, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the next album or the next thing that we do, because I don't think we've as of now I don't think we've released Punk and Drublic or Heavy Petting Zoo.
Oh,
All
okay.
the lives. So
so much to look forward to.
I know, yeah, we're quite far ahead of ourselves, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I think we will be doing those as a bridge between Heavy Petting Zoo and So Long.
To be fair, though, I did actually think My Heart is Yearning sounded pretty good, and I was pretty happy to have Hefe on lead vocals for something.
Yes, no, it did sound good. And it had Karina playing like the steel drum things on the keyboard, and it was actually better than I anticipated. And it's also it's just a little palate cleanser, so it's not just punk rock all the time. You need a bit of a palate cleanser, and that's what's great about a band like NoFX is that they can do that kind of thing. 100 Times Fuck Dear was I quite like that one. I thought that was pretty good. And they had I've forgotten his surname, but John, the sort of extra guitarist that
from Goldfinger.
Yes, the guy from Goldfinger. Pardon me.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, he played the guitar riff on that.
Like he was fucking like a really good stand-in. Like really, really good. He was having a lot of fun. Yeah. He was playing it note perfect. I don't know, man. Like really, really good choice of a second guitarist or third guitarist.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And then we hit the last 6 songs.
Yeah.
And I think this was just essentially flawless.
Yeah.
For me.
I'm going to be in the minority on this. I've never really enjoyed how NoFX end a set. Like I always want an encore from NoFX, and I've never seen them do one. I get the feeling it's just something they don't do.
I have a bootleg of a gig they did in Edinburgh in what must be 1993.
Oh wow!
And I bought it from Affleck's Palace in Manchester when I was at university. And they do a thing where they pretend to finish their set. Mike takes his bass off, puts it down, and immediately picks it back up again and goes, "Oh, look, we're back." And I think even that joke wore thin after a while, so they just play and then go, "Yeah, we're done now."
Because I kind of want what I would like NoFX to do, and man, they don't need to listen to me. Who am I? But like, I kind of want them to, bring things down. So like, do a little bit of Mattersville theme from a NoFX album, Rico, and sort of like mellow it, leave, and then an encore of something like Dinosaurs Will Die. Just like I'd kind of like it to end on something a bit punchier. But every time I've seen them, they've tended to end a gig like this.
I think they like shambolic.
Yeah. They like it to kind of wither away.
Yeah,
there's no big finish. It just sort of, it always ends on Eric Melvin with an accordion.
Yes, it does. Well, we're not there yet.
No, we're not.
But yeah, Mattersville, very, very nice. Mike seemed genuinely sad that Mattersville won't happen because he lives in Las Vegas now.
Yeah, they did like a little bit. Like he's moved to Las Vegas, Melvin's moved to San Diego, even though they used to live just down the road from each other.
Yeah, and like this is where like genuine emotion started coming out.
Yeah.
This is, and it was very genuine and it was very moving, but all of them were sort of visibly saddened.
I also get the feeling that because I know Eric, like Melvin started getting a little bit emotional around this point, but I also get the feeling that they were just very aware of their time because I think they were about to do like quite an emotional, like sad bit. But then I get the feeling that they realized they just had to kind of crack on with the last few songs if they wanted to make Curfew.
Yes, and also Melvin had to. Melvin was DJing as the Melvinator in the Wardrobe in Leeds, which would have
and he would have only had like an hour to get to that show
at most.
Yeah,
and that wouldn't have been an easy one.
No.
So yeah, but
I
yes,
guess like the audience are in that crowd as well, and I mean they're not getting out that car park for another hour, so
yeah, exactly, yeah. It seems very weird. I think it was only like the VIPs who'd have been able to have got there.
Yeah.
Yes, that did seem an implausible arrangement. But it was Melvinator DJ set rather than his actual performance. So I'm not sad that I missed it. It would have been nice if I could have maybe met them, but we don't always get what we want in life.
Because our friend Sully, who was down the front with Jez, did get a photo with Eric Melvin.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm delighted that they did. It was a very, very good photo.
One bit of advice I would give to you if you're ever watching a band in the main tent at Slam Dunk is the floor is quite concave in parts. It's not a very flat floor that you're all watching the gig on. So some parts are sunken lower, some parts are slightly raised.
Yeah.
So like my advice would be to find a good position that's slightly on like a bit more of a raised part of the ground, because a lot of the gig I was like on my tiptoes and
that's true.
And I'm 6 foot, like I'm not tiny, but
no.
It was tough to see the stage at points.
It was occasionally, and people would move and stuff like that in the way.
Sure.
There was a guy in front of us who was clearly Punk and Troublic for life.
Oh yeah,
and
he just kept shouting Rico.
Yeah, he did.
He just kept shouting it.
And then we saw, and we were aware of this, and we didn't know whether he was. But when Melvin and Mike swap instruments, it's to play Rico.
Yes.
And they've done that for a very long time because the bass line.
It's difficult to play the bass part and sing it.
Yep. And so we just looked at each other and went, "Oh, this guy!" You said to me, "This guy is going to lose his shit."
What was quite funny is it actually was a couple bars into the song before he even realised.
Yeah, he'd got himself into that kind of a state. It was, it was pretty great.
You know what I will say for like the crowd and the general vibe on the day, man, it was such. People were having fun. Like it was such a happy vibe. There was no like, I don't know. Very, very few cunts. It was just everyone was like really up for having a fun time and helping other people have a fun time. It was really nice.
I saw people falling in the pit. They were picked back up. It was real. It was real what you'd want it to be. It was really, really good. There weren't any sort of major casualties. There was a guy who got into one of the big wheelie bins.
Oh yeah, but
he did that himself.
Post.
Yeah, he did that himself for fun. It was a little bit the guy at the office party with his tie tied around his head.
Yeah, this kid just jumping in a dumpster. Like, guys, take a photo. I mean,
kid, he was older than me. He was
was
50.
He?
Yeah, he was like 50 or something. Yeah, it was like it was a real David Brent move. You know what I mean? So that was if it had been like a 20-year-old, I'd have been like, cool. That's probably new to them.
It reminds me of the bit from The Office when he's like, he's thrown a kettle over a pub. What have you done?
Yeah, it was absolutely that. But but at least he was throwing himself into the bin rather than someone. So like no complaints. Just thought it was funny. So yeah, no, the general vibe was one of real celebration and yeah, very very excited mood. There was no one was trying to outdo anyone. Not that we witnessed anyway.
No.
Presumably.
It was just really, really nice communal vibe.
Yeah, and I think the band helped foster that.
Yeah.
And in fact, all the bands did. There was a real feeling like everyone said, it's amazing to be here to help sort of essentially say goodbye to NoFX. And that's...
It was just a lovely day. I just didn't get the vibe that anybody was having a real rough time.
No.
And I've been to plenty of festivals. There's normally plenty of people about who are having an awful day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone would... It's weird. I think that a lot of people were trying hard to remember it.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't going to be another one. Maybe that's it.
A thing that I do, because I think it's so easy to, I need a photo of this like all the time. Like I normally just take one or two photos like when a band starts and then I put my phone away. And that seemed to be like what a lot of people were doing. Like there wasn't a lot of, like I go to live gigs a lot and sometimes there's just like a sea of mobile phones in front of you.
You're right.
But that wasn't the case at this one. Obviously, every now and then people would like put their phone up, record a few seconds of Linoleum or whatever.
For the more popular songs, for things like Linoleum, and I did it for I took photos during Laurie Myers when Karina was singing and stuff because it was nice to have a photo of her out from behind the keyboard.
Yeah, such a good job.
Oh yeah, no.
And listeners, if you've not listened to our interview with Karina, do so because it was it was a really fun episode to do.
It's the most recent episode before this one, so yeah, really really good. We arranged it so that we would put that one out just before we went to the show, because we talked about it sort of specifically a bit more. And we knew that we would record this episode. We're recording this the day before it goes out. So if you're listening to this on the day of release, we recorded this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so like that. And then I thought I'm going to catch a little bit of video. So I caught a little bit of Don't Call Me White.
Yeah.
Just because, and it sounds amazing on my phone. I'm like, how does it sound this good? That's insane. It shouldn't do, but that's just how good the mix was. Even on a sort of a fairly low end Motorola smartphone. So, but I thought I'm just going to grab a little snip of this.
Yeah.
But I did spend most of the time with my phone in my pocket. And most people did. I think it was a really in the moment kind of thing. But yeah, obviously whenever anyone's favorite song came up, they'd grab some footage of it or record it for their mate or whatever, but not like you sort of would expect. Interesting. I'm going to ask my friend Owen about that because that evening Owen was watching Pulp in Bridlington.
Sure.
And we compared notes afterwards because we both like NoFX and Pulp. I just like NoFX a lot more. He likes Pulp a lot more. So
I work at the Lead Mill, which is the venue where Pulp did their first ever live show.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. And Owen said that that they were great and all the rest of it. I didn't ask him about what the phone situation was. He was more interested in pointing out how excited everyone was about the 2-pint mega cups that were sort of there. I was like, oh, that's nice. The indie kids are sort of reliving their youth. It was Carling as well, apparently. So,
wow.
Yeah. So we're talking real indie era stuff. Anyway, digress. But yeah, no, you're right. It felt like people were there for it. So yeah, so at Mattersville, I mean, look at this for, at Mattersville, maybe not for everyone because it's perhaps maybe a little twee or kitschy, but you've got Karina singing at the end of it. You've got her playing the keyboard. It was the vibraphone on the original. But the last, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last 5 songs, The Bruise.
Yeah.
Fucking A. When that started, that was a big thing. Don't Call Me White. The Bruise into Don't Call Me White. I mean, come on.
Yeah, man. Into Bottles to the Ground.
Bottles to the Ground. brilliant, so good. That one was great, and that where they sing it out of time and it comes back in time or whatever that is,
Yeah.
just perfect, beautiful. Into Rico, great.
Yeah, it was great. And I do, like I think Rico's in a good position here. I think this is where I want it to be in the
Yeah,
set list.
well, because it's mainly, and I think Hefe did his solo and stuff, and it was all really really great. And then finished with theme from a NoFX album with
Classic.
updated lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
We're pushing 60, not looking so nifty. Or is it no?
Yeah.
We're over 50, not looking so nifty.
I think it was we're nearing 60.
Oh, okay.
I think.
There was that kind of stuff. There was new new join in stuff. There was Karina where she did some of her operatic stuff in there as well, which
Mm-hmm.
is I'm Karina and I can sing like this, and she did her little operatic stuff. John had a line in it. One of their other techs did as well, and lovely.
Yeah. No, it was really delightful. And it just sort of descends into what NoFX gigs descend into, which is just like a kind of a chosen family on stage having a big fun blowout.
Yes, and I think that's what, because if you listen to theme for a NoFX album on Pump Up the Val, that's on Pump Up the Val as well. I'm an idiot. I sort of acted like the theme from a NoFX album was just a live thing. It's not really, but it feels more live than it does, because theme from a NoFX album on record sounds like a sort of a novelty, because obviously it's polka-y, it's got the accordion on it.
Yeah.
But live, it actually makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
It really does. And so hearing that, Melvin doing his, and then, ending, knowing full well that Melvin has got, less than an hour to get from what is basically the suburbs of Leeds to the centre of Leeds. Leeds isn't massive, but it's also got a stupid one-way system that is just horrific to drive around, even late at night. He's playing the accordion. They go through it all. It goes into the punk rock bit. They play the rocky stuff, and then when it finishes, it sort of fades out a little bit, and then starts up again.
Yeah.
And Melvin will not be stopped.
No, he will not. He will not be stopped.
And every single time someone put a towel over him, like James Brown,
Yeah.
then sort of like try to towel him off and guide him off stage, and he's sort of playing quieter and quieter. He just marched back on with the biggest, stupidest fucking grin on his face, playing it with renewed vigor. And it made me laugh all 4 times he did it.
It's one of the things that really got me into NoFX is when Eric Melvin just plays the clown.
Yeah.
Because there is some genuine kind of almost performance art to it that I really appreciate.
There is something. What's the Goliath? Is that the one?
Absolutely.
The clown school. There is something of that repeating it with the same level of gusto, in spite of it already being worn out. Wait till it comes back round again.
Yeah.
And there is something very naturally clown about it, which is but and also at the same time, it's very strange because you see them all being very emotional whilst this is also happening, which sort of really adds a layer to it that was just sublime. And I think if that's the way that I am going to be able to say goodbye to NoFX as a live band, 10 out of 10, no notes.
Fair. One track that we didn't mention actually, which I was really looking forward to seeing, and I'm really glad that I saw it live finally. USA Holes.
Oh yeah.
Because I was expecting this quite early on in the set list. Obviously on Wolf in Wolf's Clothing, I think it follows 60%, which is what they opened with.
Yeah.
Because they did 60% Sticking in My Eye, Seeing Double at the Triple Rock, when it's on the album, it's 60% USA Holes, Seeing Double at the Triple Rock. So really interesting to hear this song. And they did like a little bit of chat before this, saying how it's the hardest song that they play.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the hardest song they play across all of their albums, but it is in
Yeah.
this set list.
Yeah. They said it was the hardest song they were going to play this evening. Yeah.
Because I was listening to it on the way back from a gig the other night, and I was thinking, this is actually, I bet this is well fucking hard to play. Like it's so fast. And the timing is just like, seems insane.
Yeah.
And like, it was one of those songs, which I quite like NoFX for this, because they're a band who, they sometimes struggle through a song.
Yeah.
But that is brilliant. Like, I want to see a band like really pushing what they can do to try and get through a track that was always just meant to be an album track.
Yes, that's the thing, is that sometimes they'll come up with a band will come up with a song and be like, that'll just have to remain on the album because there's no way we can achieve this live. I mean, like with seeing Double at the Triple Rock, El Jefe has to play that with his guitar on his knee with his foot on the monitor because it's too low, which does suggest that they record all of their things sitting down.
Yeah, potentially.
That's the interesting bit about that. So yeah, it's USA Holes was really, really good. But yeah. So
really funny seeing Mike like really struggle to stay in time and play bass and sing on that.
Yeah, but done admirably.
Absolutely, yeah. No, yeah, completely.
I mean, there were a couple of missed things here and there. There were a couple of dropped whatevers, but I mean, nothing that you couldn't forgive because it was just so good.
And they played much better than they did on They've Actually Gotten Worse live.
Oh yeah,
much less mistakes on here.
Oh yeah.
Some early on, but
yeah, it's but again, even then, none of them were catastrophic.
No.
None of them were sort of, completely flubbed it. It was, maybe singing the slightly wrong lyrics or whatever, or, basic tiny little timing issue. But again, I didn't want to see a perfectly robotic, perfect performance by NoFX because, well, perfection doesn't exist, but also a perfect NoFX performance is inherently imperfect.
Yeah.
To my mind. But yeah, so properly, absolutely delighted with it, really. And it was a lot more emotional than I thought I might be.
And is there anything that you didn't hear on the day which is a disappointment?
I suppose I'm Telling Tim or Punk Rock Elite would have been obviously amazing to hear, but you can't have everything, can you?
No.
Again, it's not up to the. I maintain it's not up to the crowd.
Yes.
To dictate what the performers do.
Absolutely.
And so whatever you get, you're grateful for. You went to see NoFX. We went to see NoFX knowing that they had promised to play these two albums.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, if anything, that's the only disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they were confined to playing specific albums rather than all the rest of it. But again, if they were doing a greatest hits style thing, that would have meant very similar set lists for them.
And it would have meant that, you have to have ebbs and flows in a set list. You have to have high points and low points. And not that, I don't think they played any bad songs because, they're still NoFX songs. But you do have to, you get your Linoleum and Leave It Alone, Sticking in My Eye, Bottles to the Ground. But then you do also have to have Punk Guy, Instant Classic, I don't know, My Heart Is Yearning, just for balance.
Yes, I suppose. And also, aside from the first few, I mean, there was basically nothing from before White Trash.
Yeah.
On this particular one. They're not shy about their...
What did they do from White Trash?
They did...
Don't Call Me White? No, that's...
Sticking in My Eye.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's it.
Pardon me. Was it just sticking in my
It's
eye?
just one from White Trash.
Yeah, looks that
Says at
way.
the bottom.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, 13 from Punk and Drublic, 12 from Wolves and Wolves Clothing, one cover, which was Perfect Government, one from Single, one from Self-Entitled, one from Coaster, one from 45 or 46 songs that weren't good enough to go on our other records. Oh, that must have been Drugs Are Good.
Right, yeah.
3 Vallum, 3 Errorism, 12 Wolves and Wolves Clothing, 13 Punk and Drublic. Yeah. It's, oh, wow, I didn't realise there were so many of these.
I think if I could make one addition, it would just be that after Theme from NoFX, they just did Dinosaurs Don't Die.
Yeah, I think
That would be, it.
yeah, Dinosaurs would have been great. But again, you get what you get, and we're lucky that we got it. So
Absolutely. And what I will say as well, after having seen NoFX 5 times or so now, like we got NoFX at their best. Like they were having fun, they were playing the right notes, they
without a
were
doubt,
in
yeah.
good spirits, which they are not always.
I have seen Mike in a shitty mood,
Yeah.
and it does put a bit of a downer on the band for a little while. And I get it. People get into shitty moods, and I get it. You don't want to be doing the thing, but as much as I don't think that fans should dictate how bands arrange their live set lists and stuff like that, equally, if you are supposed to be doing a thing, you should at least try to do it as well as you can.
Yeah.
I do. I understand both sides of it because, we're both performers. We're both people who want to do what we want to do to the best of our ability. And there are always people, from the get-go, I've been told in stand-up, thing is, stuff you do is all right, but yeah, you need some knob gags in there. What are people going to laugh at if there's no knob gags? I'm like, well, I don't really. There's loads of knob gags around. Just I don't really have any because I didn't have anything to add to the already extensive oeuvre of jokes about knobs. It's so that was my take on it. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I just didn't really think of any when I was writing jokes, but and so I don't want that. But equally, I can't go out there and go, well, I don't think this is going to be funny. Yeah, because my job is to make people laugh. So you've got to balance it, haven't you? Yeah. So that's it. That's the last time NoFX will be doing that together. If Mike is to be believed, and he's been fairly straight up about stuff to this point in his life that
Yeah.
it's
And
not
like they did make a big thing of it at the end. He said, "Oh, and by the way, this is actually it. We're not just going to come back in 5-10 years. Like we actually mean it."
This isn't some Ozzy Osbourne shit.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe him.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
I still wonder if he'll ever tour, as Fat Mike.
Well, I think he wants to do like life coaching stuff.
Oh, okay.
He's talked about how he wants to. I mean, I've seen in interviews where he's like, I want to teach people how to be happy because so many people aren't happy, and it's not very difficult to be happy, because everything I've done since whatever time has been in pursuit of me being happy, and it's just worked out that I've been able to do this as well. And and then he started talking about getting pegged a lot, and I'm like, I don't know if you can prescribe that. I'm like, what's this sort of this sort of TED talk thing where he's sort of going around going, so anyway, here is how you are happy, right? This is a dominatrix, right? Isn't she nice?
Go see her.
Yeah, exactly. I think he might have got distracted and started sort of focusing on like what he enjoys, but without making it clear. Like, for example, I found out I really like this, so I just have that happen a lot. But it did just sound like, and here is the pursuit, and this is how you get the happiness, right? Go and see. So it was just. Well, I don't think that's a. Excuse the pun. I don't think that's a one size fits all, Mike. There are some people who are really not going to enjoy that. That's not going to make them happy at all. That's just how it is. It's got to be, right? You can't, it's tea and coffee, in it. Apples and oranges. You can't. You're not always going to be. So yeah, but so I think there's that. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what projects they take up, because I mean, Smelly's been making surfboards
Yeah.
since the pandemic and stuff. I know Hefe and his wife have got a record company, and so they've been doing stuff like that. Melvin's got his Melvinator and his DJing. I think he's also done like a life coaching course as well, and
Oh
stuff
wow.
like that. Yeah.
Well, I want to
Um,
be. I want Eric Melvin as my therapist.
But yeah, yeah, no, that's it. So yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I know. She's a member of the band. I'm sure Karina will be fine because she's been doing loads of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So that's all good. It's but yeah, I was quite sad on the drive home. I don't mind
Yeah.
admitting. Once I was sort of away from everyone and it was just me and myself. Um, yeah, it was like that's something's ended, and
Yeah. It
that's
is. It
always
is
sad.
like, I don't know. It's difficult to think of another band that I have as layered a relationship with. So, like, my favorite band is the Bronx. I really like the Bronx,
Mm,
but like, I don't have the same relationship that I have with the Bronx as I do with NoFX, because I love the Bronx's music, but like, I love NoFX as people,
yeah,
and I feel like over the albums I've really got to know them as people, despite having never met them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And so, yeah, that's the thing that I really mourn, is like them as like people playing together.
I think it's
Um,
them as a unit.
like if they said, "Oh, we're never going to play any of our earlier tracks again. We're just going to tour our new albums,"
Mm,
I would still like that, because I'd still like to see them live, like work together, whether I knew what they were playing or not. But the idea that they
oh,
won't be doing that again is
yeah,
sad.
I think there's something that collection of individuals, and as we've seen, well, as is our position on this um, from the record episodes, it's when Hefe joins in that it's suddenly a thing. It's like No Effects have been going for 40 years,
Yeah.
but No Effects have only really been going 30 years.
Yeah, the no
Really.
effects that we love.
Not to denigrate the contributions of any of the previous members or the original members up to that point.
Yeah.
But when No Effects was finally able to be the No Effects that they were looking to be, it was because of Hefe,
Yeah, I agree.
to my mind. And that rings very true, having just watched them, so recently.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that collection of people not playing together again live does feel like a great shame, but it's better that than continue to the point where it may begin to diminish in quality, where it may begin to sow seeds of resentment, any of those things. I think that's where the problem could be, because there are some bands now that you think, why are they still playing?
Yeah.
Who's that for? It's for a hardcore of fans who are willing to dismiss. I mean, right, one of my best friends in the world, Gav, he's a huge fan of Kiss. He's older than me, so it makes sense. He's just, for whatever reason, Kiss were that band that introduced him to sort of rock music, and he's very much more of a fan of the sort of 70s, peak era Kiss before the. Although he sort of got more into them in the 80s with the 70s stuff, And he's seen 3 of their farewell tours because he never got to see them just through fluke. He was never in a position where he could see them, and the first time he saw him was on their first farewell tour, and he's like, I get to see them finally. It's like it didn't even matter. They could have been dog shit. He just got to see them, and that was enough. And it's like, that's cool. I'm really happy for you. No, I don't want to go. And now he's seen them on 3 final tours, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to go, but equally, we know that, their drums are replaced by a computer because Peter Criss can't play.
Yeah, sure.
He never could. They've got, vocals are being doubled and backed up on, backing tracks. They've got, they've got a real karaoke show going off.
Apparently, Elaine Page can't sing anymore. And when you go and see Elaine Page live, it's just a recording of someone else, and she mimes along.
Tell me it's not true.
Apparently, that's what.
Say it's just a story. Say it's just pretend. Say it's just the. Sorry, I don't know. Some Blood Brothers there for you, not the band. The Willie Russell musical. Yeah, but that's happening. I mean, fucking Motley Crue, who always been shit. Musically and personality-wise, obviously, but they've been giving people a load of shit over using recordings to boost their live shows, and it's like, yeah, Nikki Sixx didn't play bass on the first 5 records or something mad. It's like
oh really?
Yeah. Like the guitarist just did it because Nikki Sixx was shitter on Smack.
Wow.
Well, at least when NoFX's drummer was on Smack, he was still laying down proper solid grooves. Anyway, slagging off other bands, that's fun, but that's not what we're here for. So yeah, any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Big shout out to the super laxed security at the concert, because it was dead easy to get my weed in.
Oh yeah.
I didn't really have to think about it much. Basically it was in my pocket. They weren't patting anyone down. They were checking through bags.
Yep.
So pop what you want in your shoe. There were no sniffer dogs, which are sometimes at slam dunk events.
Oh really? They might have been. They might have been at the weekend. They might have gone.
Yes, they might have been.
It might have been the capacity or the number of tickets sold.
Yes.
Might have been below a threshold.
Yes, potentially.
Whereby they didn't have to hire the sniffer dogs, which I imagine would again cut the.
I did see 2 police officers as I entered the arena, but then I never saw them again.
I didn't see anyone. I didn't see anyone in security things. I saw the people lined up in front of the stage and stuff for crowd surfing control, but didn't see anyone wandering around on the inside. So
only as I entered, and it was just 2, I suppose, beat cops.
Yeah. Just 2 regular constables
doing the rounds, but I didn't see them again, so I don't know how long they were there for.
It's a
lot of people openly smoking and whatever, and
yeah. Oh no, yeah, no, no, absolutely, but no, but again, no one particularly mangled.
No.
Everyone was fairly well. Everyone seemed to have fairly, paced themselves fairly well.
And look, if we were just going to see NoFX, I wouldn't have brought weed. But it's a full day, and it's a lovely day.
It was a lovely day. It was a very, very nice day. The weather was beautiful. But yeah, big shout out for that. The lack of wristbands as well.
Interesting, that, isn't it? And we don't know what the situation was. I mean, because we planned to get in the arena, find our bearings, and then potentially go back to the car to grab some food or whatever.
Yeah, drop stuff off that we didn't need, and
Yeah, but we weren't given any wristbands, so we actually didn't know if we'd be able to go back to the car and get back in.
But what with the time being so tight between bands, going to investigate that means potentially just sort of missing something. So, you know,
Yeah.
the toilets were right next to the tent. Not right next, far enough away. You know, you could walk there in 2 minutes. It was
The
so that
toilet
was
situation was pretty good, actually. There wasn't intense queues. The toilets weren't, in an absolute state as they sometimes are at festivals.
no.
Um,
There were urinals for those standing pissers amongst us,
mhm.
which was very very handy. They were like those ones that you get in Holland, you know, the ones that rise up out of the floor. They were
Yeah,
like they weren't mechanicalized. They were just big vats with 4 standing positions around them. Slightly more complex than that, but not much. But that was very very handy. There was a water station as well, which I appreciated.
yeah.
Um, so you didn't have to spend £2.50 on a bottle of water every time you got thirsty.
No, yeah. And the security were handing out water at the front as well.
Oh, that's cool. Didn't spot that, but yeah. So yeah, overall, yeah. So as far as general festival etiquette goes, pretty great.
Yeah, pretty great. I mean, it was a well run festival. Quite bare bones in places. Only 2 food stands, 2
Yeah.
merch stands. Then the main stage, and
Yeah.
that's kind of it.
Yep.
But I kind of get the feeling that, again, not to bring it back to Brexit again, but my understanding is that touring specifically to this country is a lot more expensive than it used to be, and I
Yeah.
feel like maybe they were cutting some corners.
And I don't think it detracted
No,
from
I agree.
what the reason for being there. That
Because
you
everybody,
could get food, you could get water.
yes,
It was, you were shaded because the tent was out of the sun. You know,
yes.
everything was covered.
And everyone was in really good spirits, and I think that
Yeah.
was the most important thing. Like, people weren't out to ruin other people's days. People were,
No.
like, relatively quite considerate for a punk crowd.
Although the woman who was there with her Fleetwood Mac t-shirt on and her visibly more excited partner, she might not have been having a great time, but she was very
No,
supportive,
was,
and so yeah.
was she the one stood in front of us?
I saw her walking in at some point. She was, and the rest of her clothes were kind of Stevie Nicks as well.
Right.
She wasn't. I think she had like chunky heel platforms on. It's like, sweetheart, come on,
Oh,
Lord love
bless.
you. It was a great look, but
Not practical.
oh no, not practical. No boots or trainers. Tell you what though, we'll end on this. Back again to Zero Cost. Do check them out. Coming up and saying hello to us. That was amazing. That happened super early on and
Yeah.
really put a spring in my step. Although you got accosted several times more on account of having a Tank Girl patch on the back of your jacket.
Yeah, I kept forgetting that I had a Tank Girl patch on the back of my jacket. People keep stopping me and being like, they just like grab me and then just like look at me like, oh, and I'd be like, what's happening here? And they'd be like,
Yeah.
Tank Girl? I'm like, oh yeah, she's good, isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was that was pretty good. And also, yeah, because if you've got a t-shirt on and someone points at it, then you look down and go, oh yeah, I remember. But there's no way of pointing at someone's back when you're in front of them. So yeah, it was just, so there would just be this moment where they just sort of stare at you and be like, can you not sense that I am a fan of it as well? It's like, no, not really. But yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. And then I felt like I'd been rude, but I was like, no, I didn't. They weren't verbalizing what was happening.
No, they were. Yeah, it was very, very strange. People were trying to non-verbally communicate Tank Girl, which is a hard one. But yeah.
Also, quite so. I wore my only NoFX t-shirt to the gig, which is a NoFX t-shirt with Ronald Reagan having sex with Margaret Thatcher on the front.
Yeah.
And it's been in my closet for years. It's discolored. It's too small. It's a horrible t-shirt. But I'd kept it specifically to wear at NoFX's final gig. And then
really?
I've promised my partner I will get rid of it.
Turn it into a cushion.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Yep. So there you go. You can keep it, but you won't wear it. Ironically, I'm actually wearing my only NoFX t-shirt now, but it's the 30 years anniversary tour, which I didn't attend. I bought this t-shirt on Vinted about 3 weeks ago, but I wore my Twilight Zone t-shirt because I'm currently going through something of a body changing moment, and a lot of my shirts are too big or too small. And so I was just going with what I could fit into comfortably for the day. And comfortable I was. So, yeah, well, I don't think we'll bother with an outro for this one. I don't know why we bothered with an intro. Seems weird, but yeah, that was NoFX. If you were at Leeds, or at Hatfield for that matter, if you were at any of the UK shows, let us know what your experiences were.
Yeah, we'd love to hear like some stories from the day. Maybe you noticed something that we've not chatted about, or I don't know, you thought a song really stood out. We'd love to hear people's views on this, because
how were Comeback Kid?
Yeah, let us know.
We literally don't know.
Comeback Kid was.
Yeah, punkrockelitepodcast@gmail.com, or on the Insta. Yeah, we'd love to find out. Thank you so much. Yeah, strange. I'm still processing it. I think I will be for a while. It's a weird one. I don't think
it'll ever really hit home, you know?
Maybe it won't. But anyway, thanks a lot, Red.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all later. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Punk Rock Elite. It was a Pick Scraped and Fruitcake co-production by Eddie French and Red Redmond. If you're not following us on Instagram or subscribed to the podcast, please do. The main theme and production was done by Eddie French. Please contact us at punkrockelitepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.